Have you ever noticed how two people can earn the same amount of money, live in the same city, face the same struggles, yet end up in completely different financial realities? One feels constantly behind, the other slowly pulls ahead. If that question already stirred something inside you, stay with me. And if this kind of deep psychological content speaks to you, quietly tap like and subscribe, not for me, but for the version of you that's trying to understand life more clearly. Because this isn't really a story about money. It's a story about identity, about survival, about how your mind was shaped long before you ever opened a bank account. Most people believe rich people succeed because they're smarter, luckier, or connected, but psychology tells a different story. The real difference isn't income, it's interpretation. It's how experiences are processed. It's what money represents inside the nervous system. You see, money isn't just currency. Money is emotional memory. Every dollar carries a story from childhood. Every spending habit reflects an old belief. Every financial decision echoes something you learned long before you had words for it. Some people grow up associating money with safety. Others grow up associating it with stress. Some learn that money disappears quickly. Others learn that money can grow quietly over time. And those early lessons don't stay in childhood. They become your default operating system. If you grew up watching adults argue about bills, your brain learned that money equals conflict. If you grew up feeling scarcity, your nervous system learned urgency. If you grew up seeing instability, your mind learned to grab while it can. So when people say rich people think differently, what they really mean is rich people regulate differently. They don't let emotion drive financial behavior. They let structure do it. Here's something subtle most people miss. Wealthy individuals don't experience money as excitement or fear. They experience it as a tool, a neutral resource, almost boring. That emotional neutrality is powerful because when money stops being emotional, decisions become strategic. Most people spend money to change how they feel. Wealthy individuals allocate money to change systems. That difference alone reshapes entire futures. Notice how often you've bought something not because you needed it, but because you were tired, stressed, lonely, or trying to reward yourself. That's emotional spending. It's the nervous system looking for relief. Wealthy minds delay relief. They tolerate discomfort longer. Psychologists call this delayed gratification, but it's deeper than that. It's emotional containment. It's the ability to sit with unease without escaping it through consumption. That skill isn't genetic, it's trained. And here's where identity comes in. Most people subconsciously see themselves as consumers. Wealthy people subconsciously see themselves as builders. Consumers ask, what can I buy? Builders ask, what can this become? You might be working a job right now just to survive. They're working systems to evolve. You might be chasing income. They're studying leverage. You might be focused on monthly comfort. They're thinking in decades. Not because they're superior, but because their time horizon is longer. Time horizon is one of the most powerful predictors of wealth psychology. People trapped in survival mode think in weeks. People in growth mode think in years. People building generational wealth think in lifetimes. Your financial future expands in direct proportion to how far ahead you're willing to imagine. But here's the painful part. Most people never develop that long-term vision because trauma shortens perspective. If your nervous system grew up in chaos, your brain learned to prioritize now over later, safety over strategy, immediate relief over future stability. That's not weakness, that's biology. But rich people usually come from environments, or later cultivate environments, where their nervous systems feel regulated enough to plan. They don't operate from panic, they operate from clarity. And clarity creates compound decisions. Compound decisions are small choices repeated consistently over time. They don't look impressive in the moment. They don't give dopamine hits. They don't feel exciting, but they quietly change everything. While most people chase quick wins, wealthy individuals protect momentum. They don't obsess over looking rich. They obsess over becoming resilient. Think about this. Most people spend money to signal success. Rich people avoid signaling. They preserve capital. They stay invisible. They let results speak later. This is why many truly wealthy people look ordinary. They're not trying to impress strangers, they're building freedom. Another uncomfortable truth: rich people don't romanticize money, they respect it. They understand that money is stored effort, that every dollar represents time, energy, attention, so they treat it with gravity. They ask where it's flowing, what it's doing, what it's becoming. Most people never ask their money questions, they just let it pass through them. Wealthy minds interrogate cash flow like engineers inspect machines. Where is it leaking? Where is it growing? Where is it idle? Because money left unattended behaves like entropy. It disappears. But money given direction behaves like a living system. It compounds. Here's another psychological difference most people overlook. Rich people separate identity from income. Poorer mindsets fuse the two. When your worth is tied to your paycheck, every financial fluctuation becomes personal. Every setback feels like failure. Every comparison feels threatening. But wealthy individuals see income as a variable, not a verdict. They fail without collapsing. They invest without ego. They detach self-esteem from short-term outcomes. That emotional detachment is everything. It allows risk without panic. It allows patience without bitterness. It allows learning without shame. And shame is one of the biggest financial blockers in existence. People avoid looking at their bank accounts because it hurts. They avoid learning about investing because they feel behind. They avoid planning because they're afraid of what they'll see. Rich people face numbers directly. They don't flinch. They understand that clarity, even when painful, is power, and power comes from awareness. There's also something deeply philosophical happening beneath wealth psychology. Rich people accept uncertainty. Most people crave guarantees, but there are no guarantees in growth. Wealthy minds operate probabilistically. They think in ranges, scenarios, long games. They don't need certainty to move. They need direction. They also understand something most people resist. Money amplifies who you already are. If you're insecure, money magnifies insecurity. If you're generous, money magnifies generosity. If you're reckless, money magnifies recklessness. So before chasing wealth, they work on themselves. They regulate emotions. They strengthen discipline. They develop perspective. Because without inner stability, financial success becomes destructive. You've seen it happen. Lottery winners who lose everything, athletes who go broke, entrepreneurs who burn out. Money doesn't fix internal chaos, it exposes it. That's why wealthy individuals invest heavily in personal development, not because it's trendy, but because they understand that mindset is infrastructure. Without psychological infrastructure, financial systems collapse. Another quiet difference is they don't see money as evil. They see money as responsibility. They know that resources create influence. Influence shapes environments. Environments affect lives. So they treat wealth like stewardship. They ask how it can create impact, how it can solve problems, how it can build stability beyond themselves. Even when they're selfish, they're strategic. And here's something deeply human. Rich people aren't immune to fear. They just don't let fear drive decisions. They feel uncertainty like everyone else, but instead of reacting emotionally, they zoom out, they slow down, they analyze patterns, they consult data, they wait. Most people speed up under stress. Wealthy minds slow down. That alone separates outcomes. They also don't romanticize hustle. They romanticize leverage. They ask how one action can produce multiple results. They build systems that work while they sleep. They create structures that outlive effort. And this isn't about working harder, it's about working differently. Most people trade hours for dollars. Wealthy people trade insight for systems. They build assets. Assets don't just mean businesses or investments. Assets are skills. Assets are networks. Assets are reputation. Assets are knowledge. Anything that produces value without requiring constant presence. That's how freedom is built quietly. But let's talk about the hardest part, delayed identity. Most people want rewards that confirm who they are right now.
Rich people live as if they're becoming someone else. They sacrifice present comfort for future alignment. They endure invisibility while building competence. They stay patient while learning complexity. They allow themselves to look average while growing extraordinary. That psychological maturity is rare because the world trains us to seek instant validation, likes, compliments, status. But wealth grows in silence. It grows when nobody's watching. It grows when consistency replaces excitement. And here's where everything comes together. Rich people don't chase money. They chase mastery. Money follows competence. Money follows value creation. Money follows solved problems. When you focus on becoming useful, wealth becomes a byproduct. But when you focus only on wealth, usefulness never develops, and so the cycle continues. People ask why rich people keep getting richer. It's because their psychology compounds, their habits reinforce themselves, their systems strengthen